Good morning. Actually, it's afternoon, but it's beautiful and the weather's changing and glad everybody's here. And we have lots of questions today.
We have lots to talk about today because we've had some great designers on the last few weeks, and they brought up a lot of good things, and it caused us to think a little bit more about a lot of things. And we've got some good stuff going on today for sure.
Oh, yeah. So this came from D Magazine. So in Dallas, Fort Worth, there's a magazine that goes out in Dallas, D Magazine, and they have a lot of things. This was D Home, which is specifically for the home, and they have lists. And they came out with a list of 7 things that you should ask a designer. So we took those 7 questions and we put our spin on them a little bit, and then we added some more. So we have a list of 10.
Well, you like lists.
Oh, I like lists.
Yes, you do.
Yes, that's true. So we try to stay somewhat organized, although that's scary that am I the organized one?
You are organized.
Oh, okay. That's scary in some magnitude. Anyway, should I just start with the first one?
Yeah, let's rock and roll on questions.
Okay. So we'll go out of the gate and with the most difficult, I think. So a homeowner would ask a designer, give me an example of your best client experience and your worst client's experience. So how would you answer that question, Kevin?
The best client experience, I've had a lot of good client experiences. Probably the best one would probably be on a favorite pool. Big project in Phoenix with the lazy river. That particular client gave me carte blanche. Look, just do something really fantastic. And he gave me some parameters of it. He was trying to recreate a Hawaiian look.
Right.
He wanted to bring Hawaii to Phoenix.
Oh.
And so I actually designed this one on paper like you do, and then actually folded it in half and created the other half because he wanted it symmetrical as well.
Oh.
It was fun because there were so many things on that job that I hadn't done before. And so it's one of those rare jobs that comes up where you almost get a chance to do everything that you don't normally do, or you haven't done, or you probably won't ever do again, or you would do in very limited quantities because it was really big and it was really massive. That was definitely one of my favorite jobs just because of all the stuff that we got to do on it. And because the scope and the scale of it was pretty big and we pulled it off pretty quick. It was a good job. It's hard to go back to worst. I would just say that the worst clients just don't listen. This is what we do. So I have a process and a protocol very much like yours, but I like to go through everything. And you can almost tell when people aren't listening. And that becomes a problem because these projects they're complex. There's a lot going on. And I need the client to be engaged in this process, certainly through the design process.
And understand.
As I know that you do, so that they can understand what's going on. But furthermore, we need to understand what's going on in their head, what they want.
Right.
So the communication is really the key. So the best clients are the ones that communicate very well. The worst are the ones that don't. Leave it at that.
Okay.
What about you?
So the best experience, that's like picking your favorite child.
Yes.
That's a hard thing to do. And I've done this for a long time. So I could maybe narrow it down to the best every year and maybe it's a handful. But so I'm going to go with something that's recent. One of the jobs that we have yet to do the final pictures on, we took some in the fall because I just had to take some pictures of it. And what was cool about that was the setting. So here, I don't do a lot of projects on water. I know some people get to work on the ocean and they have these great views, or they work on mountaintops and they have these great views. And for the most part, that's not the case here. But this was a piece of property. It was about 10 acres. It had a beautiful view down the valley. They were on a higher point and you could look. And as you looked out in the summertime, you can't see another home. So it's just a beautiful vista. It was a really tricky yard, which I like challenges with that aspect. And the fact that the hillside went down and then it flattened up and then it went back up in one angle. And then the other angle was a cross slope that was going downhill fairly gentle, and then it dropped off almost like a cliff. So lots to deal with. And how do you deal with all the components? And they had this vision of some of the things they wanted to do. And I came up with a design that I thought was really good concept. And I ran numbers on it and they're like, that's a lot more than we thought we wanted to spend. But what they said was, it's not that we couldn't spend that. That's not what we were planning on spending. So they were real fans of my work. And they were like, we'd like to see what you would come up with if you had that budget. And I said, okay, so we'll go with it. And you get one revision. So if you just flat don't like it, then I'll revise it and get you where you need to be. But you could see what I came up with. And so they're like, yeah, that's the plan. Let's go with that. And so I came up with this design and we put it in the 3-dimensional model, and they came in and they were just like, oh my goodness, this is not anything we would ever envision, but I don't know how we would ever take this out of our heads.
Right.
And this is spectacular. And the fun thing is it met what they were looking for. And they said, we're going to go talk about this tonight. And the next day they called me back and they're like, we're all in. So I'm like, what do you want to change to get closer to your budget? And they were like, nothing. So we did very little revisions from the initial concept to what actually got built. So it was a fun project. The only thing that was really sad was finish the pool. 2 weeks later, they went to New Zealand for Christmas vacation. They came home and their house had been flooding. The water had been running nonstop in their house the entire time for a week.
Oh my.
And it totaled the downstairs of the house. So literally they had to move out and rebuild the whole bottom floor of the house. And so they were out of the house for 10 months.
Right.
And so they got to use the pool for 2 weeks.
Wow.
And then they had to move out. And so this fall, as the leaves were turning, they moved back in and got finally their furniture delivered for in the house and for outside. And we took a few pictures literally as the leaves were falling off the trees. So we're going to go back this spring and take a picture of it. But it was a fun thing because it solved so many problems and it looked cool and it fit all their needs. And anyway, it was a fun project.
So that process of replacing an entire bottom floor, that can't be any fun.
Oh, no, it was not fun at all. I really felt really bad for them, but there'll be pictures coming out shortly on that one. So the worst experience that I had in my career was a couple that I worked with in Northern California. And it was one of those jobs that I got the feeling that I should not do this job. You had that gut instinct that was like, this is not a good fit. Me and them aren't a good fit with each other, but I was young and broke and I needed the money.
This was a couple years ago.
Yes, this was a couple years ago. And I said, I can make it work. And the deadline was tight. There was a lot of things. And literally, it ended up we couldn't make the deadline to start. And I literally went out and started the project and ran a crew and hired a friend of mine to help start the irrigation. And we worked the first week out on the job because the other crew had to finish another job that was before. And everything went wrong. They ended up recording. They put a tape recorder out underneath the table and record the guys when they talked at lunch. And they came up with all these weird things that we were doing because they didn't understand what we were talking about. The funnest one is they said, you gave us secondhand mulch. And I'm like, what in the world are you talking about? Secondhand mulch? And they said, the guys said that they took all the last of the mulch from the yard, John's yard.
John's landscape yard.
John's is the owner of the company, and it was the landscape yard. Yes.
That's funny.
It was the last of that mulch, but we took it. They thought it from a client's house. And the little fertilizer pellets inside the plants, they thought were eggs of insects, and we gave them infected plants. And I'm like, no, that's fertilizer. Anyway, it was just all these different things.
So you don't know what you don't know, right?
And that was early in my career. And so you learn as you go. There's some things that you don't get taught other than having to experience it. But communication, like you said, is key, I think, to make things work.
Yeah. And I want to just jump in because I have one other job, a recent job that I love that is probably a better job just simply because it wasn't done 30 years ago or 20 years ago. But the job out at PK, the big black pool, the big vanishing edge pool, those clients, they're amazing. Of course, we become friends with them. They listen and they follow through. And that's just a big thing. This is what you and I do. And there's a lot of good designers around the country, but this is what we do. And so you're going to have a much better experience if you'll let us do it through a process. And to the communication point, that's just what we got to have.
But I think that's a real good question for an owner to ask somebody is what's the best and what's the worst project
I agree.
experience?
I think it's a great question.
The next question is, what makes a good project?
Well, I think, at least for me, this isn't my money I'm spending. It's not my house I'm living in. But when you look at a project and you're like, that really flows nice. That looks good. I'm adding value to these people's lives and to this property. That's a good project to me. And then people that understand, partially because they've been coached, if you will, of how this process works. And it's pool construction. And I've told everybody this for many years. It's not a lot of fun. Have your backyard torn up for months at a time.
Boom.
Yeah.
Explosion.
Yeah, but you have to keep your eye on the prize. And if you've executed an agreement with somebody, a designer or a pool company, trust the process, because it becomes really stressful for everybody when everybody's all sideways for reasons that they don't necessarily need to be. And that's why you just need to have a calm demeanor about this, because there's going to be challenges going into construction. It just always happens. Stuff comes up.
Wait. Something might happen.
Yes.
Something might happen that's unknown when you're building a custom project from scratch in your backyard.
Yes, something can happen.
You know, it's not like you have an assembly plant and produce this thing and slide it in.
Every single one of these jobs is custom from the perspective that it's different.
Yeah.
And different crews. Sometimes the crews there's a lot going on with swimming pool construction, and it's very different from anything else. And one of the messages that this whole podcast is about is trying to help people understand how really different it is, so that they can go into this with not only the right knowledge and a little bit of wisdom and experience, but so that you can find the right company and the right person to design this. It's a big investment. It's permanent. I've done hundreds and hundreds of remodel jobs. They're expensive. So you want to get it right the first time.
I like that answer. So a good project to me is when you realize there's a problem and you're brought in to solve that problem. And sometimes they don't even know it's a problem. There's a problem that needs to be solved, and then you solve it. And when it's over and done with, everything works now. There is no problem anymore. In fact, the problem turned into the feature, because a lot of times you can create unique situations that look really cool, but they solve also the problem that exists in somebody's backyard, whether it's outdoor living or a swimming pool. There's a lot of times a lot of problems that you can solve. And so to me, that's a good project. Is at the end of the day, they don't have any problems anymore, and all they have is awesome features that ended up from this process.
I would agree. And I think that particular issue gets dealt with when the designers are on the job more than just selling the job and moving on.
Oh, wait, that's another question.
Is that what you're talking about, though?
No, I'm not necessarily saying that. Say someone has a drainage problem in their yard.
Oh, so you're talking about pre-construction.
Yes, I can see that there's a problem
that needs to be addressed.
That I need to be addressed. And they may not even realize it's a problem for them.
I see where you're at now.
And now I bring to light, okay, here's the challenges that you have. A lot of times people don't realize they moved in the house. This house faces west. Do you know how hot it's going to get back here? So let's come up with some solutions to get you some shade so you don't fry. I don't know what we want to fry today, but anyway, you're going to cook in this backyard. So,
but it's a good point, because we are solving problems, because every yard's going to have some issue to deal with, whether or not it's an access issue, a utilities issue, soils issue. We're there to solve problems, not necessarily just to sell you a pool design. Yeah, it's a good one, Mike.
Number 3 of 10, if you're counting. Okay, so if I hire you, do I get you to do the project? There's 2. What project are we talking about? Are you going to do the design, or are you going to farm it off to somebody else in your office and then you're just going to present it? Or are you going to be on the site? So what would be your answer for both those? Do you do the design, or does someone else do it?
I do all my design work.
Okay.
I have in the past utilized somebody to put basic pieces together in a plan if I've just got too much production going on. The house, the property, so all I really need to do is focus on the pool. But I do all my own design work, which I want to do. I don't like anybody messing with it.
Okay.
And I like being on the jobs.
So do you actually run the crew? Are you a superintendent of the project?
I currently am not. I have been one.
Okay.
I spent years in the field. But no, we at Claffey Pools anyway, each client is given a project manager. And the designers don't necessarily have to be that involved in the project. It depends on the project. I love construction. I like being outside.
So you're a bonus.
I think so.
You're an extra set of eyes that gets to come out and look at things.
I use my drone and I take pictures during construction. Sometimes I catch stuff on that. So it's just a matter of me wanting to ensure that whatever vision a homeowner, client, and I have put together that it is executed the way that we all want it.
Okay.
I do like being outside and I like being out on construction sites. I like building stuff. I like to see how it's built, see if there's a better way to build it, see if there's another way to build it. That's the only way you're going to find out is being out there.
Like the answer.
What about you?
When I work on a project, do I do all of the project? No, I don't do all the design process. Okay. Because I found that there's certain parts of it that I can have other people do. So Trey does all my site analysis work. So he goes out before my first appointment and basically figures everything out on the lot from a utility standpoint, from a house standpoint, from a grading standpoint. So when I walk into the meeting, I have all that information beforehand. So it gives me a little bit better feeling, and then I don't have to spend time doing that. So that's the first thing that I don't do. The next part that I don't do is three-dimensional modeling is crucial to have people understand what's going to take place on the project. And I don't have a clue how to do that. So Megan does all that work for me. So between the two of them, they pick up a lot of pieces and help. We work as a team. But as far as the person doing the design, that is me.
Yeah. You do all
Okay.
your own design work.
Then on site work, again, similar to you, I've been a superintendent. I am not a superintendent today. I'm an extra set of eyeballs that goes out on job sites because I love to see things built. And when you're dealing with something that is a large project that has a lot of complexity, things change. So sometimes things come up and sometimes the homeowner's like, hey, can you add this? And versus having the superintendent deal with those modifications and maybe it doesn't fit the whole character, I like to stay involved and make those changes as well. Although sometimes the superintendent can handle it. But if I think about it, there might be a few details that I want to put a spin on it. So anyway.
Well, at the end of the day, we're all a team anyway.
Very
And
much
the more eyes, the better.
Oh, most definitely. But there are some people at one point in my career, I was the designer and the superintendent. And there's some companies that's the owner of the company, it's a one-man show and that's what that person does. And so it's really helpful to understand who's going to be doing what.
And I think it's pretty rare in our industry to find people that actually have an appropriate amount of both experiences so that they're good at it. As far as being a PM and a super, I like being outside and I love construction, but I have no desire to be a full-time super. I like dealing with people on the front end of stuff. And because my goal is to properly prime them for what their experience is going to look like so that when everything is done, everybody's happy.
So the skill set required for those two jobs are very different.
Yes, they are.
And so to have someone that's good at both of them, I would say would be extremely rare. I'm a good superintendent, but I'm not a great superintendent.
I would say the same about my skill set.
Okay. But I'm a great designer. Okay. So that's why I'm going to spend my time there.
Yep.
Sometimes when you're starting, you have to take care of all the skills.
Well, and having that practical real world experience will take people a long way. For the younger guys that are listening and gals, yes, okay. And gals, guys and gals, get out in the field.
Yeah. Anybody that's been out in the field will be a better designer than somebody that never goes out in the field. So 100%. The next question with bated breath. One question that I think is really helpful for us to know is what's the best way to communicate with you?
I am wired to always answer my phone. So good or bad, whatever. I've been doing it for 30 years. I just do it. So typically I'm giving people my personal cell phone number and explain to them, if you really need me, you can call me at any time if you really need me. I don't mind. I like text messages. I like emails. I don't care as long as it's consistent and we're getting questions answered or we're giving answers to questions and everybody's in the know. I don't care which way it is.
So I'm old school.
You like to talk on the phone.
Oh, I like smoke signals best.
Yeah, it's old school.
Yeah.
Right.
No, seriously, I've learned to do all of them. I'm not good at them. I don't type well. So if you don't type well, it's hard to send emails and text messages. I can't understand how people can send a text message and not even look at the screen.
Well, I have to look. I mean,
they type that thing out. Have you seen kids do that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. In their pocket. with one hand.
Yeah, it's just wow. So what a skill set that I do not have. But I'm of the opinion that sometimes I can't understand your tone or the emphasis of your words. And so if I can pick up the phone and talk to you, I prefer that. But my job is to communicate with you on how it works best for you to communicate. Because if I call you on the phone and you never answer it, I've found out that there are clients that you leave a voicemail message and they never listen to those.
Mm.
Never.
I'm terrible about leaving messages and listening to them. I'll typically just call right back. So I'm guilty of that, some of that stuff as well. But to your point on tone deflection, I mean, that is a reality. Whether you're texting or emailing, there's really no way to get emotion in there.
Oh, by your emojis, right? Are you an emoji guy? Do you put emojis in your conversation?
Oh, I have, yeah.
Okay.
I have 5 kids.
Oh, okay. You've learned a few things. You got 5?
Mhm.
I didn't realize that. I didn't have all those. Okay. We'll talk about that some other time. Wow, you got me outnumbered by 2.
5 kids and 3 grandchildren.
Okay. Well, we're tied on the grandchildren, but I've got 1 in the oven.
There you go. You'll have a bunch more.
Yes. So there should be more coming in the sometime near future. So best way to communicate. Did we cover all that?
I think
so.
that a lot of people like to communicate via text or email because it does give you some sort of paper trail, which becomes really important on some of these complex jobs because there's so much information going around. And it's hard, I think, for people sometimes to what are we doing? Did I pick this? Did I pick that? So it depends on the situation.
Fair enough. Yeah. So I do send and want confirmation on things that I talk to people on the phone about. So,
well, and here's the
that's
thing
how-
too, is I always answer every message, whether it's a text message or an email message. And so to some degree, sometimes, when you're first starting to communicate with somebody, I mean, the first few times, are you getting it? I don't know if you're getting it or not. But once you start getting that back and forth stuff where you're getting them, it's just maybe they're not answering or they're busy or we're busy or whatever it is.
Everybody's different, but I try to adapt to the client. But
Yeah.
my first line is to pick up the phone and I program their number in.
I do.
If I don't recognize the number, it's not answering that. Learn
Well,
to do
anymore
that.
with as much spam phone calls that there is.
Yes. Okay. So, question of the day. Oh, we've already had 5. So, we're on number 6. Okay. Do you have the bandwidth to handle my project?
That's a great question for a consumer to ask a pool designer or builder. An absolute great question. You know, one of the things, I've done quite a bit of training and consulting, and the thing that I always try to convey to a company or to somebody is try to stay in your swim lane, or at least the lanes on either side of you. Because if you get too far out of your lane, you could have a problem. And I think the question really comes down to, does your company or you as a designer, can you handle this scope or scale of a project, right?
Okay.
So if you're a really tiny, small company, you might be a boutique company that only builds 2 or 3 really monster pools a year. Or you might be somebody that builds a lot of pools a year. So it's a good question to find out the type of pool company as to whether or not they can handle the scope and scale of the work. The stuff you and I do here in North Texas, there's a lot of big stuff that we do. And Claffey Pools is more than capable of handling anything. That's one of the reasons I'm here, because they can design, they can build literally anything you and I can come up with. And that's exciting from a designer's perspective. And for a homeowner, be able to find a designer and a pool company that's capable to pull it all off. And we're not just talking pools, we're talking total outdoor living, hardscape, everything.
But yes, I think it is an important question to understand. And one thing that I think is important for them to understand is realistically, how busy are you? And so with me, there's a lot of times that I don't schedule an appointment with people they'll initially contact me and I'm booked out 3-4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not atypical. I know some people in the industry that are booked out several months. I know some people right now that are booked out several hours, call them and they could be there later today. So everybody's a little bit different. And so I think it is important for a client to understand what your capabilities are. And there's the bandwidth situation for your project. That's 2 different things.
Mm-hmm.
There's the design aspect of it. How long is that going to take? And then there's the construction aspect of it. But there's also the middle ground, which is how quick are you going to get my plans done so you can submit to the city respectively and get a permit on that type situation.
Mm-hmm.
So, and deal with all the the parts of that. So there's 3 different components here. How quick can you meet me? Okay. Once we meet each other, what's your capability of designing something in its entirety? And to some extent, I have to put that back on clients because I've got clients that make decisions in hours,
Mhm.
and some take days, and some take weeks, and some take months. And I've had clients take years. We try to accommodate all those different aspects and different speeds that people are looking for and moving through. But then the more complex your project is, the more things that have to be done. Soils reports have to be done. Sometimes surveys have to be done. Sometimes engineering has to be done. So even before you can get a permit, some of these things have to be done. And the sooner you start all those things, the quicker it is for you to be able to handle the project and then to build it. I think, again, this goes back to communication, explaining to people, here's your project and here's what it's going to take for this to take place. And I have people that are calling now and they're like, I'd like to swim this year. And that's the great April Fool's joke, because some people say, sure, you can swim this year.
And to be fair, there's probably some companies that have no backlog and can just start tomorrow, and maybe they're not pulling permits anyway. I don't, it depends on where it's at.
Where
There's so many things to
the
talk about here.
complexity of the
Mhm.
project.
Mhm.
So it's not no way, Jose, that's possible. For the most part, typical project, that's going to be a hard pressed situation to occur. And again, that's our marketplace, but other parts of the country may be totally different. You have to understand what's possible and what's not. So
A basic pool, just a 80, 90 perimeter basic pool on a flat lot, good access, easy to get a permit, or maybe it's someplace where permits aren't even required. I mean, yeah, you could get in on that, but a good company is going to have a backlog. They've been around, people want to use them. I would always be a little hesitant with somebody that could start 5 minutes from now or even a week from now. I mean, I'm not saying that there's not somebody legitimate out there that can. I'm saying maybe it's a question you ask yourself. And then you start lining it up with other things. Now, did they listen? It's just on and on.
So, question number 7, what would you like to drink?
Chocolate milk.
Oh, that's my line. It's nice to be offered something to drink when you show up, especially when it's 108 degrees outside.
Because this is, again, questions that the consumer is asking the designer.
Yes.
I have some questions that I think they should be asking too. We'll get to those after this list.
So it's nice to be well hydrated in the middle of the summer in the pool business. So
I was in a yard last year and I thought I was going to pass out. It was so hot. And it was a west-facing yard like we were talking about earlier. And there was no patio cover on the back that was of any substance. And I just imagine that entire backyard is like a baking oven all summer long.
it can get hot.
They needed a pool.
And that's why people move here and they're like, I don't know if we need a pool or not. And then August comes. That's the greatest sales tool in North Texas that there is. August and part of September and last year, all of July. So this one could take a while. What is your favorite product and why?
What is my favorite product? So they're asking, so for me, there's a few things I go through every single time. Number one, it has to do with the cleaning systems. I'm an in-floor cleaning system guy. I have been the entire 30 plus years I've been in the business. I probably 80% of my pools have them. I don't think there's anything better than a floor system that works good. And they work great nowadays. Like a lot of things, they didn't work great in the past because they didn't have it all together. More often than not, there's pieces missing, which is a whole nother thing. But I like in-floor cleaning systems because they keep the entire pool, for the most part, clean, but it circulates the water all over the entire pool. Combined with the variable speed pump, 24/7 circulation from the bottom up. To me, that's the way to do it. So you're using less chemicals. The water is more consistent across the board. And then as I'm a heat pump guy, if you're going to spend this money on a pool, swim 9 months instead of 5 months or 4 months. In Phoenix, you can swim pretty much year round, except for maybe November, December, January, but it depends on the year. For me, if you're building a pool, you want to use it a lot. So heat source, the cleaning system, we use nothing but variable speed pumps anyway. And then the final thing would be an aggregate pool finish. So a pebble sheen, some sort of pool finish that's very hardened, very durable, very resistant to damage.
Well, that was 3 products, though.
Yeah, I know.
You're an overachiever.
No, I just think those things are important.
Okay.
What do you think is important?
I'm going to look at my pool 365 days out of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to use my pool maybe half of that. Actually, my family uses the pool a lot more than I use it. I'm one of those bystanders, stick my feet in the water, that type of thing. So
Your labs probably like the pool, don't they?
my dogs swim in the pool on a daily basis. Yes, there's a towel rack that's dedicated to them. So never grab the wrong towel. You'll be covered in white golden retriever dust. So I'm about visual things. I like visual things that look cool. My favorite water feature is a rainfall. I like rainfalls. I do not like sheer descents. They look somewhat similar, but they sound different.
Yes, they do.
I like the rainfalls because they're more visible, because there's more turbulence with it, so you see it better. The other thing about it is I believe it sounds better. The other thing is it's not affected by the wind or height, versus a sheer descent will taper because water likes itself. It's 4 feet above the pool and it's 2 feet wide. When it hits the water, it's probably 2 inches wide. Okay, with a rainfall, that doesn't happen. So I like water features. So I like rainfall. The first one I ever did was stainless steel, and it was 1 foot wide, and it was almost like $1,600 for that 1 foot wide thing in 1992.
Wow.
So they've come a long way. There's a lot of different features now. You can get them in all different kinds of materials, but I really like a rainfall. So the second thing, I'm going to do more than one since you did more than one, is
You go.
I love fire.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I love fire. So fire, you can sit around it. Fire, you can look at it. I like fire features. I remember decades ago, actually it was about 2003, 2004, Aqua Magazine had an article, and it was Kurt Bianchi's work, and he had fire. And I was like, why in the world are you doing fire in Arizona? And it's not about looking cool. It's not about gathering. It's about the visual effect of it. And so I was like, I never thought of it. I always thought of it as gathering. You go to sit by a fire pit or by a fireplace, but the fire features, and I've done lots of different features over the years. I like fire features. So
Well, they're creating ambiance and they're creating a visual feature that's interesting.
oh yeah. I just left the job site. There's 2 fire pits on the job. There's 4 fire features incorporated into the stonework. And then there's an awesome grill, which hopefully doesn't catch on fire. But anyway, there's lots of cool things that you can do with fire. So those are some of my favorite things to incorporate into projects. So
I guess that question could be split a couple different ways, because it'd be, what are your favorite things that could be on a project that actually help a homeowner with maintenance, and what's a visual type thing on it? But you're right. Those are great features. And I'm working on design right now with 4 fire features on it. I've got 1 in construction. It's got 6, and people like fire, but they also like the lighting. Lighting has changed so much the last few years that there's a lot we can do.
come on, you stole my last
Oh,
one.
darn it.
Yes, lighting is spectacular. The changes from the old fiber optic lights. Did you ever use any of those?
Yes, that big pool that I talked about, you said my favorite project, has 3,000 points of light in the bottom of it. It has fiber optic perimeter lighting around the whole thing, and it's, 350 perimeter with an island in the middle of it. So that's all fiber optic. That was all that was available then. There was no LED.
Right. Now, the stars on the floor,
Mhm.
I think are spectacular. And the only way you can pull that off is with fiber optics. Still to this day, that's the only way that you can do it. And I think that's a spectacular feature. But I always thought the other fiber optics was oversold and it underdelivered.
Absolutely.
So I wasn't a huge fan of it. But the stuff that's out now, the LED lighting, there's so much that's available now. And I tell people, you can be like the normal neighbor that lights up their bushes in their house at Christmas. And then there's the neighbor down the street that has the whole light show that you can see from the moon. And it's in rhythm with some song flashing on and off and stuff like that.
Aliens can find.
You can do any of those degrees of lighting with swimming pools. And the cool thing is you're going to look at it again a lot more at night than you are during the day.
I agree.
And as we mentioned earlier in an episode, if you got good lighting, the party goes on and on.
The other thing on the lighting, fiber optic lighting, that was all that was available. We just didn't have the technology. And that's really a good metaphor for everything. It continually gets better. There's a whole new set of standards, I think, that are coming out on pool pumps for efficiency. As I was talking earlier about floor systems, they are now complete systems. I mean, if you have not had a pool in a long time, or if you have an old pool, get ready to build a new house, you want to spend some time finding out what's available because it's very different than it was just 10 years ago.
Oh, most definitely. So those are some of my favorite products. I was into the visual aspect of it because I wrote the questions here. You probably didn't know one that I had that was coming up, which anyway, you're at slightly disadvantage. So question number 9 that a homeowner should ask the designer is, what do your construction plans look like?
Now, that's a great one. Is it a one pager or is it a multi pager with details and lots of information so that it can get built right? I would imagine it would depend on the project a little bit. Yeah, that's a great question. In fact, I would ask to see them because I think seeing the plans is going to give you a little bit of idea of the type of company and what's important to them and how they do things.
What you referenced then, I think, is a great idea. So if you had a project at about a certain scale of project, can you show me a set of plans that's similar to my scale of project?
Absolutely. It's a great question to ask and to get a real answer from.
That should be real easy for someone to produce. Here's a $200,000 project that's got all these features in it, and here's a set of plans that kind of accommodates something like that. And here's a project that's 1.5 million, and here's a set of plans that accommodates that type of project. So it gives you a real idea of how much thought is given into how all the pieces go together and what the superintendent's working with to build this dream of yours that's beyond the 3D pretty picture that you saw.
One of the things that has worked and not worked for the industry is that there are companies that deliberately don't give people a lot of information so that they don't have information to go back on. And this is why this is important, is that if you have a complete set of construction plans, now you've got something to reference to make sure that you're getting what you bought. If the plans are somewhat ambiguous, including the very ambiguous estimate, how do you know what you're getting?
Well, they told me this is what I was going to get. And I believe that salesperson, trust that salesperson.
I have to think that on nearly every contract out there anymore that's been looked at by an attorney, which pool company should have a contract that was written by an attorney to protect the homeowners and protect the pool company. But more often than not, it says no verbal agreements will be honored. It has to be on paper. That's what it's for. It's to protect you. That's why you want it.
So my dad, when he did construction, never signed a contract in his life. So everything was on a handshake.
That was a different generation and a different time, and I remember it too.
Yeah. And so he was amazed when I first started in my career that I had to write contracts out. And the thing with my dad, though, too, is most people hired him, knew him, okay? And he was working for people that they knew. And so he had been doing it for decades. And
He
so
had a reputation.
And he had
People
a reputation.
knew he could be trusted.
And so he worked on barns and did barn construction. And he never did a set of plans in his life. He'd be just like, this is what I envision. How about something like this? And they'd be like, oh, yeah. And he'd show them pictures and they'd be like, oh, okay. And so they would go off and do it. His philosophy was always to give more to the person than they expected.
Yep.
That's how he got his referral business. And he was one of the only ones that did that type of work in Western Pennsylvania and Eastern Ohio. So anyway, that day, as you said, that's not today. So the challenge is if you have a salesperson that you come up with an agreement on, the challenge is you want to make sure everything that they communicated with you gets communicated to who's going to build it, because that salesperson isn't going to build it. The other thing that happens commonly in this industry is the salesperson leaves. Now what's happening, the person you talked with and told you this was going to happen. So for your protection and their protection, the more that things are clear and understood, is that process will go much better than where it's not clearly detailed out.
Yeah, if it's documented, there's no question.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't mean that stuff doesn't come up or happen, but we've got a good solid basis for the construction of the project.
Yeah. So set of plans are a good thing. And when I first started in 1992, my plans were one page. I had to show where the skimmer was and the lights were. and a few other small details, and that was about it.
I think that there's instances when those one-pagers can work. I mean, very simple pools, not a lot of details. You're not dealing with a lot of ground issues or problems like that. So there may be times when it's prudent, but the plan should definitely be commensurate with the scale and scope of the job.
Got another question here for you. This is actually question number 10. What features should I have to create low maintenance in my pool and outdoor living space?
Maybe I answered that already.
Yeah, see, I set you up poorly.
Thank you.
I'm sorry about that.
Well, no, that's not your fault.
Yeah, a good teammate would have set you up properly so you could spike the ball and get the winning goal.
I can still answer the question.
You can certainly answer the question. You have a different answer?
People are swimming in the water. So the first and most important thing is the safety of the water, sanitizing of the water, safety that you can swim in this water and not pick up something or whatever. You know, I'm a big fan of UV and ozone. I really love ozone because I've used ozone for almost the entire 30 years I've been in the business. Variable speed pumps, I can't imagine not putting one on a pool. And as I've said before, I put 2-speed pumps on pools for the 20 years previous VSPs even being available.
Right. Okay. Don't take them all. You got to leave some for me.
I got to leave some for you. Okay.
Yeah,
so I'll just focus on this one.
You've already taken 3.
The circulation of that pool, that water filtering 24/7 is probably one of the best innovations in our industry that there has ever been. To be able to run a pool pump for 24/7 for about the same cost as you would run a single speed pump back in the day for 8 to 10 hours a day. Now you're getting 24/7 circulation. You're reaching that point of diminishing returns and staying there. It takes about 5 to 6 turnovers, complete turnovers of the water to get to that point of diminishing returns, which that is when has every molecule of water passed through the filter. Not every molecule is going to pass through it because it's being mixed back into the pool. So statistically and mathematically, about 5 to 6 times you're going to get to 90, maybe 94, 95%. But you'll stay there because it's always running. Pump doesn't turn on and off, so it stays warm. It's going to last longer. They just work better. The pumps are amazing nowadays, but that has to be sized with an appropriate filter.
So you've touched on pool finishes, a pebble hard finish, similar to Pebble Tech, which we both are fans of. You mentioned variable speed, which I as well did variable speed when I was in Northern California. A sanitizer, ozone, minerals. No, you said ozone and UV. And the other one you mentioned was N4. So gosh, you've taken a lot of good ones here. So I'm going to go with autofill. My answer is autofill.
I thought for sure you're going to say salt systems.
Oh, sorry for all you people that are on the West and East Coast that love your salt systems. And
those are great places for them.
It's based on the material that's around your pool. Here in Texas market, we have way too much stone, and salt systems don't play nice with stone.
A lot of organic material coming into the pool.
So autofill.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So an autofill, I think, is a great piece of equipment. A couple of different things. If you have evaporation, which basically you have, and you travel with any time, then you're going to lose water and you're going to need to put water in the pool once a week or so. And if there's not an autofill, then someone's got to turn that on, or you're going to come home and your pump's going to run dry and sucked air and burned out.
So I had never built a pool without an automatic water leveler until I got here. When it was a question, because it was just always part of the pools, but in Phoenix, you could tie into a hose bib. You don't have to worry about freezing. So it's inexpensive. Here in Texas, depending on where you're at, the codes read you have to tap into the meter. And who's tapping into the meter is not a pool plumber. It's an actual licensed plumber. And so it costs more, but it is a must-have in a pool.
And you have more evaporation in Phoenix than you do even here.
I don't know about that.
But anyway, it's pretty high rate. But I would say an autofill is something that would be really helpful with your maintenance aspect. The other thing I'm a fan of, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is a different one. I think a gusher on your tanning ledge is a good maintenance.
I agree.
And because I have people all the time that are like, I don't want that because I don't need that there. And I'm like, yeah, you do. That water does not circulate well, and it's really shallow, so it gets really warm. So that's the first place algae is going to grow in your swimming pool. So if I can stir that water up some more and add some more agitation and add some oxygen in that space, that's going to help some in maintenance. Plus, I like the LED one because now that's going to add light to an area that's typically a little bit darker in your swimming pool.
Mm.
So I'm a big fan of LED gushers as well.
I like them, but they serve a couple other functions. You brought up the agitation. So by keeping that water, that agitation on the surface, that tension, that helps push stuff towards the skimmers. And it helps the water not be perfectly calm on the water line where that calcium and body lotions and everything else ends up for the scum line around the pool. Most importantly, that introduces a ton of oxygen into the pool, which is good for the water.
Yes. My last one that I'll throw out here, again, a little bit different.
Are we using our fingers now?
Oh, we're on YouTube. Hi, people. So, number 3, I want a water feature pump. Okay. I don't want my water features tied into the pool pump because when I go to use my spa, that means my water features turn off. And I'm so sad now because I really want my water features to be on so I can't hear my neighbors when they sit on their driveway in the evenings. And I don't know why they hang out on the driveway, which is right above my pool. I mean, they've got 3/4 of an acre, and that's where my neighbors like to hang out is on the driveway. And they smoke their cigarettes there because they don't want to smoke inside the house. So anyway, I need my water features on so I can drown them out. So I can't hear them while they're hanging out there and when I'm hanging out in my backyard. If you don't have a water feature pump, then what happens is when you go to spa mode, all your water features turn off.
So we're talking pool spa combination with a separate water feature pump, and that is an absolute must. Absolutely, for sure.
Yeah. Who wouldn't have a spa?
I agree.
And I'm not a spa person, but I think everybody should have one.
Mhm.
So,
I am a spa person.
yes, I know. Those are our top 10 questions. So we didn't have just one question this week. We had 10 questions. So we're overachievers for April Fools.
I have some other questions.
Oh, you've got more?
Oh, yeah.
Bonus questions.
Yes, I have a lot more. And this time I'm going to be the moderator and I'll be asking you and I will respond after you.
Oh, well, that's
and then
fair.
then after you say something, I'm going to tell you that you ruined one of my other questions. No, I'm just teasing. All right. So this, I think, is a really important question for people to ask their designer and their builder. Number one is, are you licensed? What kind of insurance do you carry? Do you have workman's comp?
Whoa, that's
Do you
3
have
questions.
liability insurance?
Whoa, now.
So let's just paint a picture here. You are potentially hiring somebody to come into your yard to build a project. They are hiring other people
Yes,
that you don't know who they are
right.
to come and do some of that work.
Correct.
So if they're not properly licensed, if they're not insured, they don't have workman's comp on their people, what happens if something happens on your property?
Wait, we're Texas. This is the wild, wild west here you're talking
Yeah,
about.
you just stole it.
Oh, I stole your answer?
Yes, I was going to talk about the wild west too.
Gosh, okay. I thought I was supposed to answer first.
The funniest thing is to me, because I started this journey to come over here a couple of years ago, and one of my good friends, and you're friends with him, is Jeff Moreland. And Jeff used to always talk about the wild west. And he's talking about Texas and how things are done here. And, I kind of took it with a grain of salt because I've talked to him for years. I just wasn't ever considering moving over here. And that was one of the things he talked about in the bubblegum soils and stuff. But it's the wild west. So this is what you have to think about as a consumer when you're thinking about getting a pool built. Is your company even licensed? Do they pull permits? Do they have insurance? These are great questions. And if you ask us, we're going to give you the answers.
I can only answer one at a time.
All right, go.
Okay, so which one am I supposed to answer? Are you licensed? Okay, let's go with the license.
Sure,
first.
go ahead. You do that.
Okay, so in the state of Texas, you don't have to have a license.
That is true.
So, Spider, you can go start building pools tomorrow.
I might just do that.
Yeah, you've listened to all these podcasts.
Yeah, no joke.
So you know all this stuff, right?
Well, I was talking to my sisters last night and telling them the same thing. You could move here tomorrow and start a pool company and be in business the next day.
Now, what has to be licensed is the electrician
Mm-hmm.
has to carry a license, the sprinkler person has to carry a license, and the plumber has to carry a license. Those people have to have a license, but to build the swimming pool, nope, not required, not at all. If you're expecting that there's, a certain level, then there is not in that aspect.
In some states like Arizona, California, they have a register of contractors.
Yes.
We don't have that here in Texas.
No.
And so it becomes really important to do some due diligence here because even if a company's not licensed, they don't require licensing. Okay, now let's go to the next one. What about liability insurance?
Okay, so do you have to have insurance to build swimming pools in Texas?
No.
Nope, you don't have to have insurance to do that either.
You don't even have to have workman's compensation on your employees here. that are out building the pools as I understand it. If you're not a licensed company and you don't have insurance, you're probably not going to have workman's comp.
And the other aspect is you subcontracted,
But do they have licenses?
or do they
Insurance
do
or
they have
whatever.
insurance, or do they have workman's comp? So
I think it's really a question of how do you run your business? Are you a legitimate business that dots your T's, crosses your I's?
oh, well,
I can cross my I's. That's never been a problem. I was born with that. But that's the point here. What kind of company is it? And if you're building in rural Texas or rural Oklahoma or wherever it is, there's not really a lot of options. Maybe you're just not going to have an option. We're in DFW. There's very good pool companies here. And there's people that aren't probably doing things the way that it should be done.
that have insurance, that
Mhm.
have workman's comp, that their employees are required to have workman's comp.
If that didn't happen, let's say I had somebody working out on a job. Let's just say we're not licensed. We don't have insurance. Somebody gets hurt on your property. There's going to be a claim filed against your homeowner's insurance for starters. And you may find yourself into a lawsuit,
You're liable for, yes,
that person being hurt on your property. This is a big deal.
that's an important thing to understand before you start a project, is what qualifications or what things that they have to protect you as a consumer.
Those are easy questions. Are you guys, Texas doesn't require licensing, but do you carry general liability insurance and workman's comp on everybody that's on my property?
It's a good question to ask.
I think it is.
Most definitely.
Specifically because it is the wild, wild west.
And there is not stuff required.
All right, Mike, I have a few more questions.
More?
I told you I was going to have more.
Wow.
It just took you writing them down for me to know what they were.
This is bonus time for everybody today.
We all know how my brain works these days, so thank you for writing them down. So this was something that I found a little fascinating, and that is that because it's the Wild West and because there's no licensing, literally a company can just shut its doors, file bankruptcy, and then start another pool company here under a different name.
Within a week.
But they can do it that.
In a week. Yes.
That's fascinating.
Yes. So you don't have to be out of business long.
So a question that somebody could ask then would be, how long have you guys been in business under your current name and ownership?
Correct.
Possibly. That would be a good question to ask that, or a good way to ask that.
And have you had another company?
Yes. Yes. I think it's a good question. And really what it boils down to is if you just listen, now, is it a problem that you answered the question, or does it, yeah, we did, or whatever. If you get a reasonable answer.
But there could be warning signs here that you need to listen
that's
to.
what this is about.
Yes. Okay.
Another one that's a big one, because we were talking about this before the show, is I have in the past had my websites mirrored, and they've been found in other parts of the country.
So what's the question?
So the question is, the pictures that are on your website or the pictures that you are showing me, are these your pictures? Are these pools you designed? Are these pools your company built? Or are they just pictures of pools?
Yes. Someone emailed me. It was Instagram. They sent me a direct message this week, and they said, just wanted to give you a heads up on this one. And there's a guy that he has good taste.
Mm-hmm.
He took 2 of my international design winners,
And they are beautiful.
and they're on his website. And he's also made posts with them on his Instagram page and explained how he built them.
I would imagine you're going to be having a conversation with him before too much longer.
Oh, yeah. So I'm curious, to people in the industry that are listening to the podcast here, I'd love to hear what you think we should do to people that do that. Send us a message. I'd love for that input to see.
I think sometimes you might be showing a feature that maybe you either haven't built before or it fits into your design better. It's an example. But you would tell people that, would you not? This is not my work, but is this kind of what you're thinking?
Sure. If they came up with a concept and they said, hey, I want to do something like this, and if I have a photograph that I can find and it's, hey, this is real cool feature Jason Brownlee did or Danny Wang did, and here's what they did. Here's one of Randy Angel's. Is this what you're thinking you want featured on these lines? And so, yes, I would say that's not, I didn't put it on my website. It's not my portfolio.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a good question to understand where the work came from and who did it. So
That is it.
One thing also that a lot of people don't understand is a lot of times someone else designs the project. Person that has it in their portfolio built the project. Okay. They were the ones that built it, but they weren't necessarily the ones that created it. So I like to try to give credit to people if I've worked with and collaborated with on a project that, hey, these people worked on this project as well as me, not just me.
Sure. And we both have seen pictures of pools or projects on other websites. Say, for instance, they are a pool company in Wisconsin, and now their website has pictures of pools with palm trees on it. That should be
Yeah.
a
Warning.
warning sign.
Yeah. You can see a lot of times on a new website, there'll be like 5 or 6 beautiful pools, and then they'll have one that's like real entry level.
Mhm.
The real entry level one's one they probably actually built, and then they have palm trees in them, and what's in the wrong part of the country for that?
I just think it's a reasonable question to ask.
Yeah, certainly.
The other thing would be, what does your company do to ensure that your sales staff, your construction people, your staff in general know what they're doing? Are they going to continuing education? Are they getting certifications? Are they going to training and education? Ask just a very simple question of, what have you done to learn your skills, your craft? What have you done?
I've been doing it for 20 years. Of course, I've built
My favorite one.
I built the same pool for the last 20 years. It's got the same equipment on it. The big plumbing, I went from 1.5 to 2 inch.
I told you that the house that we bought here in Arlington, it has 1.5-inch suction lines on it.
Yeah.
My gosh, it's crazy. Yeah, I think that the reason you're asking that question is to find out the background of the people that you're potentially working with. But what kind of company is this? A company that instills that level of expertise and knowledge base to its employees certainly is going to probably build a better pool.
It also speaks to how passionate you are about your career and what you do. There's people that are really strive to do excellence and greatness, and some people it's a job. Okay.
That is true. That's true. It's
And
just a
so-
job.
But even people that have just a job, some of them are certified still because the company they work with requires that to take place. And they have a better knowledge base than somebody else that has just a job that's doing that as well. So anyway, but yes, the best way to learn to do cool things is to take classes and learn how to do cool things, not see a picture and be like, okay, let's figure out how to do this and make a stab at it. And you might be way off the mark.
And what had me thinking about it more really, Mike, was we had a lot of good guests on here recently.
Oh, yes.
And you can tell when you're talking to them just how passionate they are about what it is that they do. And so you're looking for, we're talking about, spending tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. So with this project being the intimate project that it is, it just makes sense to have somebody, I believe, that really loves what they do. You love what you do.
They're going to bring the best out of what's the possibilities for you. But yes, education and certification certainly give you that. But the other thing that those two things give you is association. And so when you have association, even if it's not something you know how to do, then you may know someone that knows how to do it. And so you can go to the source and get it done, the new idea correctly. That's a bonus.
Good. This question is really probably tied back more to what we were talking about before with changing companies and bankruptcy and stuff, but it's a little different because we're talking now about liens. And I don't know that people understand how this works. So if you hire somebody to build a pool for you and they just decide to take your money and not pay the subcontractors that are completing the work on it, which this happens regularly, your house could be liened. And you may not have to pay for it right away, but when you sell that house, you certainly will.
Wait, I paid the contractor. He didn't pay the employee, and they're going to put a lien on my property?
That is correct, sir.
That's how that works? Okay. So I don't think a lot of people understand that.
No, and that's why we're bringing it up.
Oh, that's why we're bringing it up. Oh, okay, yeah. So, yeah, and it's not something that goes away.
Yeah, and you might not even know it until you go to close on your house or you go through the financials on possibly selling your home. And you're like, wait a second, there's a lien on our house from 3 years ago when we built this pool. So the only way to get out of that is your pool company can provide lien releases. Do they even do it? You got to be asking these questions. That's a big one. Could you imagine building, I don't know, $150,000 pool and finding out that $100,000 worth wasn't ever paid? 3 years later, company's long gone.
And now profit in your house is gone too.
And it happens.
But you can get a lien release that says that they've been paid.
Yes.
Okay.
And then the next one has to do with the type of company it is from the perspective of, do you guys do new pools, renovations? Do you do service work? Do you guys maintain pools? And if you don't, who does? Because pool companies are required to give warranties. Warranties are typically performed by the subcontractor. Well, if a subcontractor hasn't been paid, you think they're going to want to do the warranty work on it? No. Who does it? Do you outsource your warranty or do you do it in-house? Do you take care of pools? This is one of the things I love about Claffey is that, and the group as a whole, is that we'll take care of the pools. And who better to take care of a pool than the company that built it?
So what you're saying is there's some companies that just build. In fact, they don't even do the startup of your pool. They have
a subcontractor.
A subcontractor comes in and does the startup of it because they don't do any type of service work at all. They don't do any warranty work. They work with, so there's warranty stations. But if you deal with a warranty station, so your pump goes out on the 2nd of July. If you're dealing with a warranty station, you might get somebody out in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Versus if you're dealing with a pool company that is the warranty station and has a service department and service techs, then they might be able to get out before the 4th of July and fix that for you. So if you're a full service in the fact that you clean, you service, repair, and build, then you have one person to go to for all those things, which is a nice feature to have.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice to know that up front if that's a possibility.
Absolutely. And this is the thing as well. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that you're spending a bunch of money. Don't you want to know the type of company that you're working with? And if that stuff doesn't bother you, okay.
You may want to clean your own pool.
Wouldn't you want to be in the know?
Yeah, but then you're making educated decisions.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're trying to do, is give people information. So the journey that they have in their outdoor living and in their pool and in their backyard is a great journey. So do we have more?
No, I think that's all I had. I wanted to add those.
Okay. Well, that's a good thing. So you got lots of bonuses here in April, way beyond 10.
Well, I'm changing April Fools to April Pools.
Oh.
And April Pools questions.
Okay. So we have April Pools questions.
There you go. There's a whole plethora of questions, and they're good ones to be asking.
If you have questions that we didn't answer, please send them in to us. Social media, you can send them in. You can go to the website and send them in, and we'll try to answer those questions for you. And we'll try not to wait until we have 10 to do that. We have a tendency to try to do those every episode. Although the last couple of weeks, we didn't have as many questions because we had some really great guests, and
more coming.
We got more coming, and it's going to be a really fun time. So one thing that we ask, it's really helpful, is if you get a chance to go on to Apple and give us a rating, you could do that. That would be extremely helpful. And we'll be back next week to provide more fun and games with Poolside Perspective podcast.
Absolutely. Have a great night, everyone.
Take care. Bye now.